What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hopefully you had a good weekend overall. I did here. We played some games, and we also talked about the Nintendo Switch versus the last generation systems, the 360 and the PS3, and some of the differences since there was some confusion there. If you have not already checked out that video, check the card above. I'll leave it up there for you. It was a lot of fun to make. But with that, let's get started with some of the news that happened over the weekend. And we're going to start with Dragon Quest XI, a game that has exploded in Japan like we would assume since it's Dragon Quest, right? Dragon Quest does well in Japan. Very curious to see how it actually does out here in the Western audience and, of course, everywhere else in the world. But for now, in Japan, massive hit, sold millions of copies on the 3DS and the PS4, just a breakthrough success for Square Enix. And now they're talking about the Switch version because we haven't heard anything about this version, which makes sense because they want a lot of the emphasis to be on the games that are out now, which is the 3DS and the PS4 version. They don't want you to really think too much about the Switch version since, well, you might just hold out for that version instead of buy the one that's already available in Japan. But the big thing a lot of people have been kind of going back and forth about, fans, analysts, everybody, what version is the Switch going to get, right? That's what we've all been talking about. Is it going to get the PS4 version or is it going to get the 3DS version? Well, it looks like we may have our answer because according to developers, it is going to be running on Unreal Engine 4. And this is according to JapaneseNintendo.com. Yuji Ori appeared at the Unreal Fest East 2017 and then confirmed that it will be running on Unreal Engine 4.15, which is interesting because it is newer than the Unreal Engine 4.13 that was used for the PS4 version. Now, before, I guess you start running around saying, oh, the Switch version is being built on a newer version of Unreal Engine, the only reason they're building it on 4.15 at this time is because that is the version of Unreal Engine that added Switch support. That's the one that they natively added Switch support, where it's a lot easier to work between this console or this computer game and then move it over to the Switch, where they added, different, I guess they were talking about Switch, a Switch essentially that kind of tries to take your game and fit it onto the Switch as best as possible. Then, of course, you have to go in and change out settings and everything to make it run exactly how you want. But they're using 4.15, and this pretty much confirms, at least from where we're all kind of standing, this appears to be the PS4 version that will probably be changed with resolution, because apparently the PS4 version runs at 900p right now, and that's already obviously less than 1080p. So I'm curious where they're going to go with it on the Switch. Are they just going to lower detail settings? Are they going to lower the frame rate? Are they just going to lower the resolution to make it work? We also don't have absolute confirmation this is the exact same version that's on the PS4. They made kind of a joke during this interview or this panel where they were like, oh, maybe it'll just be a different type of game with Dragon Quest XI in mind. Maybe it'll be they were joking, maybe it'll be a 2D version of the game, probably citing kind of like what Project Octopath kind of is. But I do think they were just messing around. It looks like it's going to be the same version in my mind here that's on the PS4. It scales well, and I think they'll just lower settings, change resolution around, do all kinds of crazy tricks. But I would expect the same version to show up on the Switch. You could take that game portably. Now the big question is, when is it coming out? Is it summer of 2018? Is it winter 2018? Like, are we waiting an entire year? Because we already know the other versions are coming next year. But now the real question is it going to release alongside them, or are they going to push it back months, a year maybe? It's hard to say here, but right now just know when you see it, it should be the PS4 version coming out. Next up, if you were looking at Gran Turismo Sport, right? It was coming up, it was going to be a new Gran Turismo game. We haven't had one in a little while now, and it's going to be on the PS4. Well, there is a demo. It's a limited time demo. It's not going to be around for very long, a couple days, but you can start downloading it today. So if you're a PlayStation Plus member, you can start playing right now. If you are just a regular standard PS4 owner, you can start playing at 6 p.m. Pacific time later on tonight. This is going to go all the way to the 12th of October, so about 3 days. 8 a.m. Pacific that morning, it will pretty much stop working. Now, the demo will be up for download until October 11th at 8 p.m. Pacific time, in which case it will disappear off of the store. Now, this is a great chance for you to play the game and see how it plays, because there are a lot of skeptics after hearing about how the single player is going to be, or how is this game going to feel in general, because Forza is very strong. It probably will be the better game overall with the amount of features they're talking about with it, but of course that has things that put people off with loot crates and all this other stuff. But now it looks like Gran Turismo and Forza are kind of back, kind of competing for our dollars this holiday. It's going to be interesting. I'll be curious to see how it plays. I'm not a big car guy myself, but I do enjoy at least looking at them because, I mean, we all know when you see a car game, you look for the visuals first, and from what everyone said, developers, I don't have any experience with it, a lot of developers say that doing car visuals are a lot easier, obviously, than designing people to be realistic looking, because cars obviously are metal objects most times, so you can kind of do all the curves and everything, do the shiny textures, make it look really good. But I'll be curious to take a look at it from, I guess, a technical perspective to see how it actually looks like in motion when everyone has it. It's gonna be pretty cool. I'll try it out at least just to see. Now the demo is 43 gigabytes. You'll have to think about that too. Is it worth your time to download that demo to play it for a couple days? Maybe. Next up, let's talk about Jurassic World Evolution. It, of course, is kind of the sequel, to Operation Genesis, a game a lot of us played back on the Xbox or PS2, or if you're fortunate enough to get it on the PC. Now, the problem is it's very expensive. But for fans of that game, of course, Evolution comes along at Gamescom and gets everyone really excited. Well, now we have new gameplay footage and some small information bits from the developers. And this came from Frontier Expo in London. They had the Jurassic World Evolution developers there. They revealed an entire new trailer that shows some in-game visuals, and they talk about really some of the objectives. And really the idea here is you're going to be running a dinosaur amusement park. So you're going to be creating new creatures in your lab, like new dinosaurs, but you also have to run your amusement park, your attractions, everything. So you're going to be managing all of that while you're trying to create new species of dinosaur. And this looks like it's going to be a lot of fun for people who kind of like the SimCity type builders, right? The theme park builders, but with dinosaurs. So I'm excited for this because this looks different from a lot of stuff we're used to nowadays, which is obviously first-person shooters and stuff like that. It's gonna be really fun to see. I'm gonna keep an eye on this game entirely because I'm hoping we get a demo just to see how it controls. But it looks like it'll play really well on something with a keyboard and mouse like a computer. However, I will be curious to see how they set up for a controller, since obviously you're gonna be moving around with a cursor. Either way, could be pretty interesting. I'll let you guys know if anything else pops up for this game. Now, we also had the Nintendo World Championships of 2017 take place over the weekend, and there was some interesting stuff that happened there. One, we had Reggie, of course, come on camera and tease us heavily with something. We don't know what, because, of course, they blur out his mouth and, of course, play sound effects, basically bleeping out whatever he was talking about, some mystery project they're doing. It could be a couple things. Could even be talking about a game that is already out, although they probably wouldn't have bleeped it if that was the case. So I guess expect some surprises coming from Nintendo, but it was a lot of fun. People had a good time, and we, of course, got our winner. Now, before I go any further here, I will not tell you what Mario Odyssey levels they played or anything. I'm just going to tell you they played a couple of Mario Odyssey levels that no one else has. So it kind of had that cool nostalgia feel from The Wizard, for example, where Mario 3 is unveiled and everyone has to try to play it, and somehow that kid knew you could get the whistle and fly up and then skip. Who knows how all that would have actually happened, the whistle would not have been used. That would have been something people would have found, a week later or something after it is released to everyone. Anyway, found out after all of this, though, the winner was Thomas G, and he actually ended up beating John Numbers, who was the original winner of the 2015 Nintendo World Championships. Now, I gotta say, I'm not really into any of the esports stuff, but Nintendo did a great job dressing everything up, much like they did in 2015, and I love the idea of having a Mario Odyssey game being the big reveal at the end with this new level, although I think there were some people who were a little annoyed because, well, there are a lot of people out there who are actively trying not to be spoiled at all. Like, they're avoiding everything with Mario Odyssey, and if they're just watching and then all of a sudden, there's a new boss or level and everything, there you go. They might have been a little annoyed. However, we're getting so close to Mario Odyssey, you will start seeing stuff out there at some point just randomly, because we're getting up to the point in time where people get these games early from retail, or you know how that works, right? Someone gets it a week early and then they start posting stuff on Reddit, on Twitter, where you can't stop yourself from seeing it, just pops up in your timeline. So hopefully it doesn't happen, but it was a lot of fun. I know there were a lot of people who attended and had a good time as well. I kind of wish there was some big announcement, but they have so much stuff kind of coming up, and I guess they just wanted to tease us with something from Reggie, but no massive solid announcements. We did find out that ARMS is getting new DLC and everything that's going to be free, obviously new update, but still nothing groundbreaking. And in our last bit of news, this may not affect, well, most of you actually. It'll affect more of the people who grew up kind of in the 90s and the early 2000s, because it looks like AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, is getting discontinued. And again, some of you may be looking at me like, what's AIM? I've never heard of that. And that's fine, because if you were kind of coming up in the age of Facebook, you would have had no need for it because it's essentially built into Facebook. So AIM, or AOL Instant Messenger, was pretty much an IRC chat essentially back in the day that was dressed up to be easy. You would sign in, and then you would have people on your friends list, and you would just message them, and then you'd have all these windows all over the place messaging a bunch of different people. Away messages would happen where you'd go to away status and say BRB or whatever. And it was basically how we communicated back in the day with dial-up. It was the easiest way, and it pretty much worked for most people who were in middle school or high school at the time, like myself, where we would talk to different people, from school about the daily events. We didn't have, any kind of real video chat at all. And it was actually pretty cool to have. It was definitely nostalgic. Obviously, to see it going away is kind of like, that's too bad, because it's that last little bit of some of our childhoods kind of going away. But of course, there's no need for it anymore. Yahoo Instant Messenger was shut down as well. Facebook replaces all of that. Just no one's using it, so why keep it up? It's still sad to see it go. Let me know if you guys had any experience with AIM. Was it something you used? Or really, are you a little too young for the AOL Instant Messenger at all? That's not a big deal if that's the case. But I'm just curious how many people actually remember it. And that's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me think about any of the stuff we talked about today, whether it is Dragon Quest XI on the Switch. Are you surprised? I mean, there were a lot of people who were like, oh, it's the 3DS version, and other people were like, no, it's the PS4 version. Were you pretty much on the side of it's going to use Unreal Engine 4, it's going to be the PS4 version, and it's going to show up on the Switch at some point? We still really don't know when. We haven't even seen a screenshot. We know it's coming at some point. Also, let me know what you think again about AIM, AOL Instant Messenger. I'm curious how many of you actually used it, or if it's just something you heard about now that it's closing down. Very curious. Thanks, guys, for watching. I'll see you next time.